The glossary for chapter 3, personality. All humans are alike in that they all share the human situation and its inherent existential dichotomies, but they are unique in the specific ways they solve their human problem. The infinite diversity in personalities is in itself a characteristic of human existence. So what he's saying, in other words, is so all humans have shared characteristics as humans. However, and they all share the same challenges or contradictions facing man. Dichotomy means contradictions facing man. They all share death, right? This is a challenge for man. They are all limited because they are humans. They can't see or know everything, right? And so they all share these qualities. However, they are unique, and each person is unique in their specific ways, in the ways that they solve their human problem. So there are challenges that everybody face, and however, people are unique in the way they deal with these challenges, right? So there is an infinite diversity in personalities, and this is in itself a characteristics of human existence. That's what he's trying to say. Now, there are questions floating around. Is personality determined by genetics or shaped by environment in which we live? And how much of who we are is biologically inherited from our parents and how much is learned? And this is the nature versus nurture argument in psychology, in the field of psychology. A lot of you are aware of it. Personality is divided into inherited qualities and acquired qualities. Inherited from the genes, through the genes, the genetics, and acquired through learning, right? So the inherited qualities, specifically the temperament, which are gifts and all constitutionally given psychic qualities, and they have no ethical significance because the person has no say in, whatever genes are handed down to them or inherited by them. And humans born with unique temperaments. The temperaments, the origins in genetic codes that guide development of the brain, elements apparent from birth. The temperament relatively consists basic dispositions inherent in the person, underlie and modulate expression of activity, reactivity, emotionality, and sociability. And we will give examples later. And on the other hand, personality is also acquired qualities, and specifically the character. Differences in character constitute the real problem of ethics. They are expressive of the degree to which the individual has succeeded in the art of living, or in other words, has succeeded in solving the dichotomies that the human race face. This could happen on a daily basis or on long-term goals and plans and problems. But there is a confusion between temperament and character that had serious consequences on ethics. So Fromm wants to make sure that we differentiate between both, okay? Temperament, constitutional and unchangeable, the mode of reaction. The mode of reaction, for example, quick and strong reactions to situations, right? He will react quickly and strongly when he loves, when he is engaged by or enraged by injustice, and when he is impressed by a new idea. This is a temperament. The way or the mood of reaction, the way that he reacts, this is influenced by his temperament, okay? On the other hand, the character is changeable and it's formed by the person's experiences, specifically or especially in early life, and changeable by new insights and new kinds of experiences, right? So the character can change. If the person has a temperament in which he's strong and quick, But the character is what he is quick and strong about depends on his kind of relatedness, his character. If he's a productive, just, and loving person, right? So he's quick and strong about in his reaction, for example, in relation to love, because he is a loving person, right? If his character were that he is not a just person, he would be quick and strong in being unjust. So again, the confusion between temperament and character had serious consequences on ethics. People could have different temperament, but they share a similar character. So they could relate to the same thing, but react to them differently. For example, two individuals are loving, and that's their character, right? That's how they relate with others. They love other people, so they are loving. But they react to it differently based on their temperament. For example, a person could be a little bit distant in his love. He cares, but he's distant, right? And another person is strong and passionate, right? And this is in their temperament. And vice versa. Two people have similar temperament due to genetics, okay? But they are interested in different things. So having the same temperament, such as, for example, we gave the example before, being strong and being quick. And one of them is a loving person, and the other one is is not a caring person. And they both will show this quick and strong temperament in these characters, right? And they're different characters. So again, the temperament is how you react to things, the way you react, and character is your relatedness with other people, how you relate to other people. Okay? How you react is really an intrinsic quality. It's within you. How you do it, it's within you, right? But how you relate to people, it's really your interaction with people. But the confusion of temperament and character led to condemnation of whole races, whose predominant temperament differ from our own. Yes, a group of people, for example, the same, for example, who are generation after generation are going to have or share or pass down specific temperament, right? Because we know that temperament is genetically inherited. And so you are getting some temperament from your father and your mother. And so if there's a whole family, then you are sharing some temperaments with them. But this led to condemnation of whole races, okay? And it has also supported relativism by the assumption that differences in character are as much differences in taste as those of temperament. Characters are different, and characters are the ones that need the ethical um, norms or the ethical standards, but temperaments, really people cannot control them. And so this confusion or merging temperament and character did give a place for an argument that people conflate them and think that because people are so different in terms of temperament, then they don't need, or they can make relative ethical moral systems, ethical and moral systems. Well, there are different schools of thought, of course, specifically in the field of psychology. So, from a behaviorism standpoint, so behavioristically oriented psychology, character are traits synonymous with behavior. So people conflated between character and behavior. So they will tell the person's character through their behavior and the pattern of behavior characteristics for a given individual. Okay, and this is behaviorism standpoint. On the other hand, Freud stated that character is a system of strivings which underlie but are not identical with behavior. He argues that behavior traits are described in terms of actions and observed by a third person, such as being courageous. But if we look at the motivation, we will discover different character traits, such as being motivated by ambition. So he takes risks to become admired, maybe motivated by suicidal impulses, which are due to non-valuing of his life, or maybe motivated by devotion to an idea rather than ambition. Do you see? So taking the motivation in consideration, according to Freud, tells us something totally different about the character, instead of just focusing on the behavior to determine the character. And here's a formula based on Freud's theory. Character derived by a motivation, a particular intention, results in an action or a behavior, right? So a behavior is the result, but the motivation needs to be clarified so that we understand the character. We can't take it out of the equation and say, well, this is who the person is. This is here Freud's theory, and Fromm agrees with him. Man relates himself to the world by, number one, acquiring and assimilating things, and number two, by relating himself to people and to himself. So this is how his character is built, by his relationship with the world. Man can acquire things through producing them, through his efforts, or by receiving them from an outside source. And he must acquire them and assimilate them in some fashion to satisfy his needs. This is page 58. It's important for man to be related to others. One of them, to be part of a group. To be alone is unbearable. He can relate to others in various ways. So this is the character again, how he relate to other people. He can love or hate. He can compete or cooperate. He can build a social system based on equality or authority, liberty or oppression. But he must relate in some fashion, and the particular form of relatedness is expressive of his character. Do you see? So the form of how he relates with others is his character. Man cannot live alone and unrelated to others, and he has to associate with others for defense, for work, for sexual satisfaction, for play, for the upbringing of the young, for the transmission of knowledge and material possessions. People think that their character are confirmed by logical ideas, and Fromm argues that these ideas are as a result of their character and of their actions. Ideas influence the character, but are influenced by the character and actions. So it's a cycle for Fromm. Yes, ideas do influence our character, but our character also influences our ideas. So it's a reciprocal relationship. Ideas influence the character, but are influenced by the character and actions, and therefore man selects. He selects, so he has a will. He has the ability to select his ideas, his values, and his actions. So he has the ability to modify his character and change it. And character has a function. It permits the individual to act consistently and reasonably. And it's also the basis for his adjustment to society. So through his character, he can adjust to a society. He goes to a new society, right? And he can modify his character to relate to people in the way that it's acceptable to them. And so he can adjust to this society. So he can modify his character to fit in, to adjust, right? The family is the psychic agency of society. Parents' characters influence child character, and their method of training their child is influenced by cultural and social patterns. So just imagine the family exists in a society that has particular values and norms and ways of doing things. And so they influence the family's values, norms, and ways of doing things, and the family influence their child's values, norms, and ways of doing things to character, right? So he acquires that character which makes him want to do what he has to do, and the core of which he shares with most members of a social class or culture. The fact that most members of a social class or culture share significant elements of character, and that one can speak of a social character representing the core of a character structure common to most people of a given culture, shows the degree to which character is formed by social and cultural patterns. So what Fromm is trying to say is, yes, if a person exists in a particular culture and they are assimilated in that culture, that means that they have a shared, or they can tweak, or they can mold their personality, their character to fit in within the social character, or the standard like character of this culture, right? But he's trying to argue that that many actions must be performed far more quickly than conscious deliberation allows. If you are having a social character, according to behavioristic thinking, man learns to react in a semi-automatic fashion by developing habits of action and thought, which can be understood in terms of conditioned reflexes. This is on page 59. And what Fromm is trying to argue is, well, if a person in a particular society molds their character to fit in or have the social character or the socially agreed upon character uh, that seems to be same with everybody else. Now there are also conditioned ways of behavior, of reacting to things in this particular society. Now if a person reacts based on these conditioned um, reactions without really uh, sort of automatically, right? Without thinking, without really rethinking about their action and why they're doing things. Does this really reflect a person's character? So in that sense, he's trying to argue against behaviorism that action is really, or a person's behavior is really represents his character, because in this case, he argues that it doesn't, right? And so, but from the social character, we must differentiate the individual character in which one person differs from another with the same culture. So he's trying to say, no, well, if a group of people in the same culture, they react the same way, so they have the same behavior towards something, it only means that they have been conditioned, to react in this way. It doesn't really mean that this is their character. And he's trying to say, no, we need to think about individual people and their uniqueness in the same culture, right? So he is trying to argue that it's important to know that man has agency in how he relates to others, to himself, and the world. And he has agency in his character.